He's just joining now, Mr. Chair.
All right. So we're all ready then. I will go through the formalities for the remote meeting stuff. As a preliminary matter, this is Jason Normand, the chair. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Who we got here tonight? Kathy Franson?
Here.
Chris Goodwin?
Here.
John Stokes?
Here.
And staff, when I call your name, please respond. Rebecca Oldham?
Here.
And we also have Paul Haverty.
Here.
And Amy Kessel.
Here. Oh. Here.
All right, so I think that is all of the, not going to go through all the Bill and all. Oh, well, Bill, can you hear me? Bill Daly? All right. Good evening. This open meeting of the Groveland Zoning Board of Appeals is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020. Due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus, in order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the Governor's order suspends the requirements of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of the public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. For this meeting, the Groveland Zoning Board of Appeals is convening by video conference via Zoom, as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and take care not to share your screen. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supported materials that have been provided, members of this body are available on the town's website. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective, clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I, the chair, will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each name to provide any comments, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. Finally, each vote will be taken in this meeting, will be conducted by roll call votes. And if we turn to tonight's agenda, we're going to have a short update on the first agenda item. Given that we are still remote, we're not going to go through a long review, review like we will be doing hopefully in the next meeting. But we need to go through some of the updates on, if I find the agenda. So I'd like to open the Zoning Board of Appeals Wednesday, June 3rd, 2020 meeting at 7:38. In accordance, I don't need to read that part, I just went through all that. The first item on the agenda is the continuation of application 2019-3 for Sewell Streets Groveland Realty and Trust LLC care of William Daly, requests a comprehensive permit pursuant to the provisions of MGL 40B 20-23 and 760 CMR 56 to construct 192 apartment units in 4 residential buildings, a clubhouse with related amenities such as pool and associated access ways, sidewalks, parking, utilities, stormwater infrastructure located in the industrial zoning district. All right. Would you like to, Bill, are you going to talk, or do you want,
No, I get
Joel?
the honor tonight, Mr. Chair.
All right.
Okay, first
I'll
off,
let you do your.
good evening. I hope you and your families are all doing well under these strange times we've all had. It's nice to see you all again. It has been a while since we last met. I don't know how much we can get to tonight. There are a couple things I'd like to touch base with if we can. Over the past few months, one of the things that we were in the process of was completing a peer review of all the civil drawings. Back and forth, the engineers went, and as a result of their efforts in February, there was a letter released, I believe, by your peer review consultant that went through the 50 or whatever number of items that there were on the list. And it's our understanding at this point that we have answered all his questions, and that any open item only has to deal with any waivers that we might request at such time that the hearing was closed and we move to the next part of this discussion. So I guess the first thing I'd like to do is to stop here to see whether you all have had a chance to review that letter. We do have Brian on the phone tonight, our engineer, to see whether or not there's any particular questions regarding the civil drawings and where they have been elevated over these past months. And by the way, I can screen share the plans if the board would like.
All right, where do we want to start? Do you want to?
Well, we could go through the letter line by line item. Of course, there's a lot of pages of it. It's my understanding and review of the letter that there are no longer any open issues, that the engineers have reconciled their questions through the evolution of the plans, and that the letter in front of you represents the result of those efforts. So
Mr. Ellison with TEC on the call this evening as well, if the board would like to hear from TEC about their final closeout memo.
Thank you.
Francis, I would love to hear from TEC because I'd like to hear what they have to say as their closeout memo, and then maybe we can go back if there's any issues as we go along. Would that be okay?
That's what I was thinking. That might be a good place to start.
Yeah, because I know one of the first items is going to be the legal issue, which is, I believe, what town council is on the call for too. So maybe we could address that as part of it as well.
I thought we'd do that as a second item, because I know that in itself is a question back and forth between council. So if we can hold that out, we can do the civil first and then follow it up with the Nelson Street discussion.
Okay, that works for me.
All right.
Okay, I think this is my turn to talk. My name is Peter Ellison from TEC. I'm a civil engineer hired by the board to perform a third-party peer review. So over several months, we went back and forth actually 6 times. There were 6 letters issued total. 58 comments were made. And I'm happy to report at this time that all of our comments, we have no more outstanding comments. The first week of March, we had 5 or 6 comments remaining. They were all stormwater related. And at this time, all 6 of those are addressed with the latest set of plans. I think that were dated March 12th.
Okay. We want to go through all the comments one by one, or? Does the board just want to call out specific areas?
Okay,
That
if
way
you
we
can't
cover
hear you.
everything.
Oh, there you go.
The what?
I said maybe I would sort of like to just go in order and go through the list, and you know, if it's not that big of it, we can, you know, sort of skip through it, but I just, for organization's sake, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Peter, do you want to read the comments, or would you rather I go through the reading and then,
No.
given that their comments are coming from you,
Yeah. I can,
you might be able to understand the wording a little better than I do, hopefully.
I can certainly read through the comments.
Or reading it. You might be better at reading it than I am.
All right. I will open that up right now. So this is from my review letter dated March 18th. Believe the first 10 comments are related to waivers requested. I'll start with number 1 here. The applicant is requesting a waiver from section 4.5 of the zoning bylaw to allow multifamily development within the industrial zoning district. Although multifamily is not permitted as a use, section 4.5 of the bylaw does allow planned unit development within the industrial district by issuance of a planning board special permit. This comment is informational only. Comment number 2. The applicant is requesting a waiver from section 8 of the bylaw to allow a minimum side setback of 20 feet where a minimum requirement is 25 feet. Proposed building 2 is shown as 20.4 feet from the Nelson Street right-of-way. The applicant should clarify if Nelson Street is considered a street providing frontage for the property. If this is the case, the minimum setback would be 50 feet based on the bylaw. And their response was that frontage is being provided via Sewell Street with 387 about feet of frontage. And that was in my eyes, that meant the comment was addressed and that they're applying for a waiver for the 20-foot setback to Nelson Street. Comment number 3, the applicant is requesting a waiver from section 8 of the bylaw to allow maximum building height of 65 feet where the maximum allowed height is 35 feet. The proposed building height, design features, etc. will be reviewed by the architectural peer reviewer for conformance with the bylaw and character of the neighborhood. That was informational only. Comment number 4. The applicant is requesting a waiver from the loading area requirements in section 9.5 of the bylaw. TEC acknowledges that the typical industrial loading requirements do not strictly apply to this project. However, the current layout does not promote efficient deliveries of any kind, including moving trucks, mail packages, delivery, or trash dumpster collection. TEC recommends the inclusion of loading spaces or areas be designated to mitigate stoppages of traffic flow and pedestrian safety. So I think what they've done is they've incorporated some loading areas kind of at each building, parking areas for these actions at each residential building. Number 5, the applicant is requesting a waiver from section 10.1 of the bylaw in its entirety, as it will meet MGL Chapter 40B. The review of affordable housing requirements is not a civil engineering issue, and therefore this comment is informational only. Comment 6, the applicant is requesting a waiver from section 10.3, planned unit development of the bylaw in its entirety, because the project is being proposed to meet the requirements of Chapter 40B. The applicant is proposing a multi-family development, so the requirements of section 10.3 do not directly apply. However, there are several requirements within this section that apply to public safety issues, and TEC will review all the public safety issues as part of the peer review. Number 7, the applicant is requesting a waiver from section 11 of the bylaw in its entirety. TEC recommends that the applicant submit concept plans for the proposed signage for the board's review. And their response was that they would install a development sign at the intersection of Sewell Street and the development's access driveway road A. The sign is 4 by 8 feet in size and will include stone foundation. And the sign is located on sheet C15. Comment number 8. The applicant is requesting a waiver from section 13 of the bylaw regarding the requirements of site plan review. The project is under review by the zoning board consistent with chapter 40B and will undergo third-party consultant peer reviews for several aspects of the project. This comment is informational only. This was included on their waiver list. Comment number 9. The applicant is requesting a waiver from all Town of Groveland wetland protection bylaws and regulations. The applicant has stated that they are and will continue to comply with the State Wetland Protection Act. A notice of intent will need to be filed for the project and reviewed by the Concom and Mass DEP. They said, see attached request for waivers from the Groveland Wetland Bylaw. And my response was that we are deferring to the Town of Groveland Conservation Department to determine the appropriateness of the waivers. Comment 10, the applicant is requesting a waiver from all Town of Groveland Board of Health rules and regs, stating that they will comply with Mass DEP. The applicant should clarify and list the specific requirements of the Board of Health to be waived. Requirements in place to protect public health and safety will not be waived. Their response, our review of the Board of Health regulations provided by the Planning Department indicates that no waivers are required for this project. All right. So number 11, we start to get into the site plan and layout issues. Sewell Street and Nelson Street are both private ways. The applicant should provide documentation that they have the right to construct a project of this size on the roadways. Construction of the project will impact the current state of both roads therefore impacting all project abutters. Ultimately, the TEC response is that we're referring to Groveland Town Council on the roadway legal right-of-way issue. So I don't know if you want to just have me continue reading or if you want to dive into that issue. I know that's one of the open-ended ones.
Well, how about we just move on, we go through this first rather than jumping to the town council's
Okay.
review at this time. So I think that's going to be a bigger discussion, so.
Alrighty.
Or at least, involve other documents and stuff.
All right. Comment number 12, additional information should be added to the site plans, including labels to the existing roads and right-of-ways, width of drive aisles, width of accessible walkways, parking space dimensions, building lengths and widths. And ultimately, the response was that these items were added to the plans and the comment was addressed. Number 13, the applicant should provide a snow removal plan addressing snow storage locations, prohibited chemicals, etc. And they did provide that and added the snow storage locations to the plans, C4 through C6, comment addressed. 14, again, has to do with Sewell Street being a private way. So I think that'll be discussed at a later time with town council. Same thing, 15 has to do with Nelson Street as a private way. 16, applicant should coordinate with the Town of Groveland Fire Department to determine if access to the proposed building is adequate for current emergency vehicles. I believe the response here is that on January 15th, 2020, the Groveland Fire Chief presented his findings to the ZBA, and the fire department is agreeable to the current building heights and development layout. So that was a comment addressed. Similarly, number 17 has to do with coordinating with the Groveland Fire Department to locate the number and location of fire hydrants. And that was kind of the same response that January 15th, the fire chief presented that was addressed. 18, applicant should provide a designated school bus pickup and drop-off location, accessible pathways to it, and demonstrate that a school bus can access and leave the designated location. This was added as a typical detail and it's shown on sheet C4 and C15 of the plan set. So that was comment addressed. 19, applicant should provide a grading and drainage plan, clearly labeling the elevation of the catch basin and drainage manhole rims and inverts. The requested data was added to the plans, sheets C10 through C14, comment addressed. Number 20, the applicant should provide a stormwater report demonstrating compliance with the requirements of the Mass Stormwater Handbook. A drainage report was initially provided in January and that was revised through March. So that was comment addressed. They provided the information that was requested, and there's many more comments coming later about the details of the stormwater report. Comment 21, applicant should clearly demarcate the limit of grading and limit of work on all applicable site plan sheets. This was incorporated into sheets C10 and through C14, so the comment was addressed. Number 22, TEC recommends adding a guardrail along the east side of Sewell Street. And this was incorporated into the plan set on sheets C4 and C5, so the comment was addressed. 23, it appears that buildings 1, 2, and 4 will be served by dead-end parking aisles. TEC recommends that the parking areas be reconfigured to eliminate the dead-end aisles. Essentially, the response was they provided a turnaround area at the end of the drive aisles to eliminate the dead-end aspect, so there's somewhere for cars to turn around. It's shown on sheets C15 through C17, comment addressed. 24, the applicant should provide a complete parking table with calculations that show the required and proposed number of both regular and accessible parking spaces. Ultimately, I think we ended up with 381 total spaces, and 22 of those are ADA compliant, shown on sheet C15 through C17, so the comment was addressed. Number 25, the applicant should show all proposed parking spaces on the site plans. I think really that comment was about the parking that was underneath the buildings. Those weren't shown, so those were added on the architectural plans, so that comment was addressed. 26, the applicant should provide designated locations for a dumpster and demonstrate feasible access for pickup and drop off of the dumpster. They are proposing a centralized trash storage and pickup location. It's shown on sheet 6, and a turning template was included to make sure that the truck could get in and out of that area, so the comment was addressed. 27, the applicant should provide adequate street signage and pavement markings such as stop signs and stop lines, etc. The plan set was revised in January and included a pavement marking and signage plans, sheet C15 through C17 and C26. The comment was addressed. 28, the applicant should continue to coordinate with the Town of Groveland Water and Sewer Department to confirm that the proposed water connections to the municipal system are acceptable. The water connections are currently shown very close together, which will not provide a redundant loop in the system. Additionally, it is unclear if adequate water pressure exists within the municipal system to serve a development of this size. Their response was that they met with the Water and Sewer Department to review the project, and it's their understanding the department is agreeable to the proposed water system layout, and the proposed water system layout and the proposed internal and off-site sewer improvements supporting the project. That was comment addressed. 29, as currently shown, the project sewer system will be routed through manholes and piping to Salem Street. Beyond Salem Street, it is unclear how and where the sewer will be routed for treatment. TEC understands that a sewer extension will be required to handle the project sewerage. The applicant should continue to coordinate with the Town of Groveland Water and Sewer Department to confirm the potential sewer connection. Their response, the plan set dated January 13th includes the sewer system layout within the proposed project. Offsite improvements to support the project and portions of the town are currently in the concept stage. It is our understanding the Water and Sewer Department support the internal and offsite improvements associated with the project. So that was comment addressed. Okay, number 30, sheet L1. As is shown on the plan index, however, a landscape plan is not included. The applicant will prepare and submit a landscape plan soon and prior to the issuance of a building permit. So we wrote comment addressed, and we recommend that this would be considered a condition of the approval by the board. Number 31. A parking area containing over 20 spaces shall have at least one shade tree per 8 parking spaces. Shade trees will be provided for all parking areas in accordance with that requirement and will be shown on the landscape plan. So similarly, that should be included as considered a condition of the approval. 32, pre and post drainage figures, which include locations of subcatchments and design points, should be added to the stormwater report. These figures were added and revised based on a couple back and forths with the applicant, and ultimately this information was provided and the comment was addressed. A description of each design point should be included in the stormwater report. This information was provided in their final version of the report, so the comment was addressed. 34, TEC recommends that a clay core be incorporated into the design of the infiltration basins to prevent the possibility of slope breakout or berm failure. The location of the core should be clearly added to the site plans. This detail was added to the plan, so the comment was addressed. Number 35, TEC requests that on future submissions, the HydroCAD reports be provided with no hydrograph plots in order to save paper and reduce the overall length of the report. The 210 and 100-year storm events should be provided with node summaries and no hydrographs. The report was revised and the comment was addressed. 36. TEC requests that the HydroCAD pond volume tables be provided for all proposed infiltration basins and sediment forebays to confirm that adequate water quality volume exists. These were included in the final stormwater report, so the comment was addressed. 37, TEC recommends that a stormwater swale system be designed to capture runoff from the northern portion of Nelson Street, of the Nelson Street Emergency Access Road. The swale could potentially be designed to capture runoff from Nelson Street and the unpaved portion of Sewell Street and connect back into the closed system at catch basin number 4. This swale was incorporated into the plans. The grades of the unpaved portion were not possible, and upon review, that comment was addressed. 38, the site plan should clearly identify the area of the project that will be constructed as wildlife habitat as part of the environmental mitigation. And that was labeled on the plans and the comment was addressed on sheet C11 and C12. 39, test pits should be provided for all infiltration basins. Ultimately, these test pits were provided and shown on sheets C14 and C29, and the comment was addressed.
Peter, do you want to take a minute or two break before we go through the next
Of course.
batch, or are you good to go?
Oh, I can
It's like
keep
another
going, no problem.
2 dozen of these, so it's
Yeah.
up to you.
It's up to you guys. You're the one who has to listen to me.
Well, it's a lot easier listening than reading all this.
Yeah, no
But
problem.
if you want to keep going, feel free.
Yeah, no, I'll just keep powering through. All right, number 40. Standard 1, these are all related to the state of Massachusetts stormwater management standards. There are 10 of them. Standard 1, states that no new stormwater conveyances may cause erosion in wetlands of the Commonwealth. Through the back and forth, they did provide some additional information that we requested on riprap pads to make sure that there was no erosion, and the comment was addressed. 41, standard 2 requires that the post-development runoff does not exceed the pre-development runoff. There were several revisions between, this original letter and March, and ultimately through the use of the underground detention systems and the infiltration basins, they were able to address that comment. 42, standard 3 requires that the annual recharge from post-development shall approximate annual recharge from pre-development. And we also requested that a mounting analysis be provided for the infiltration basins with less than 4 feet of separation to groundwater. And this information was provided and the comment was addressed. 43, standard 4 requires that the stormwater system be designed to remove 80% of total suspended solids and to treat the ½ of volume from the impervious area for water quality. They did incorporate 4 bays into the infiltration basins to accomplish this, shown on sheet C24, so the comment was addressed. Standard 5 is related to projects with a land use of higher potential pollutant loads. It is a what we call LUPL because it has over 1,000 vehicle trips per day. And there are higher treatment requirements for projects like that, so they incorporated the 4 bays into their basins to address the comment. Standard 6 is related to projects with stormwater discharging into a critical area, a zone 2 or interim wellhead protection area. The project is within a zone 2, has similar requirements to the LUPL. So the 4 bays were added to the basins to provide that treatment, and the comment was addressed. 46, standard 7 is related to project considered a redevelopment. There were some small portions of the projects that are redevelopment, meaning where there's already impervious area, for example, on Sewell Street. Ultimately, the information that we requested to meet this was provided, and the comment was addressed. Standard 8 requires a plan to control construction-related impacts, including erosion, sedimentation, or other pollutant sources. They did provide this information in the stormwater management report, so that comment was addressed. Standard 9 requires a long-term operation and maintenance plan to be provided, and we did ask them to add an access path to perform maintenance on the infiltration basins, basically so you could drive a small vehicle down there to either mow or clean up the basins. This was added to the plans seen on sheet C10, so the comment was addressed. Standard 10 requires that an illicit discharge compliance statement is provided. This was provided and the comment was addressed. All right, we're almost there. Number 50. Based on review of the pre-development watershed map in comparison to recent aerial photos, TEC identified 2 detention ponds at the site, which are not labeled on the pre-development watershed map. It appears that these ponds are being used to manage stormwater for the current quarry use. Based on coordination with the town of Groveland, it appears that a previous sediment basin plan was approved at the site, and the applicant should provide the previously approved plan, incorporate that basin into the stormwater study under the existing conditions. Ultimately, this information was incorporated into the stormwater report and the comment was addressed. Number 51, review of aerial photographs of the site show that the 2 detention ponds are both approximated 10,000 square feet in area. The basin closest to Salem Street appears to have a designed riprap slope and potentially a designed outlet structure and riprap overflow. These details should be provided and included in the pre-development drainage study. Again, similarly, this information was provided. Only one of the two ponds that I could see in aerial were actually a design system. So one of the two was incorporated into the plans and the comment addressed. 52, the applicant should provide the HydroCAD area listing, ground covers, and node listing for the pre and post drainage areas for review. After going back and forth a couple of times, that information was provided and the comment was addressed. 53, many of the sub-watershed areas on the post-development watershed map are eligible. For example, the sub-watershed, the east of P5I is not eligible. For small watersheds, a more detailed plan with a smaller scale may be required. They did provide that plan with a smaller scale and the comment was addressed. 54, proposed sub-watershed P9F does not include an area listing in the HydroCAD. Ultimately, the HydroCAD calculations were revised and that comment was addressed. 55, the limits of sub-watershed P10A should be clearly identified on the post-development watershed map. This was revised and the comment was addressed. 56, TEC was unable to locate sub-watershed P6C or P6D on the post-development watershed map. These were both included eventually and the comment was addressed. To provide a conservative drainage analysis, TEC recommends using a consistent condition for all sub-watersheds between pre and post-development conditions. For example, the woods area in E5A is labeled as fair and good in the post. This would apply to the grass areas as well. These HydroCAD calculations were all updated accordingly and the comment was addressed. And finally, the last one, 58, TEC does not agree with the use of brush as a ground cover in the proposed conditions. These areas should be modeled as grass, or evidence should be provided that brush planting will be accomplished. And the HydroCAD calculations were revised to eliminate the use of brush, so the comment was addressed.
And that's a mouthful.
I know that was a mouthful, but I do appreciate you going through it because I think it's important to just touch on everything because we haven't been around each other in so long. I just kind of wanted to do like a sort of an overview, figure out where we were and what still needs to be addressed going forward. Not
Sure.
just for us, but also for the public.
Yep.
So thank you. I appreciate that.
Of
And I
course.
just want to add, I truly appreciate the efforts of Peter and Brian that even through this pandemic issue, that they really continued to work at it together. And we do appreciate both of their efforts.
Want to address the legal issue first, seeing as how that's one of the first things on TEC's list, and we can go through that.
Why don't we then turn it over to, if you don't mind, Jay, why don't you share with the board what you've provided to Amy, and then Amy and you both can chime in on what that all means.
Thanks. We didn't have any new materials since we sent an original letter and then a supplemental letter in January that addressed the issue. We became aware that an abutter or another member of the public gave some additional documents to, I believe, Rebecca. We don't know what they were. We obtained those documents. They were already in our chain of title for the most part anyway. They certainly indicate that that particular property owner may have rights in Nelson Street as well, but it doesn't otherwise affect our original opinion. I know that Amy's been looking at stuff as well. I mean, we've gone through the title. We feel that our right to use and improve Nelson Street is beyond question. We certainly have the requisite site control under 40B.
Amy,
Amy, do you have any? Ed?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So there were two issues that I had to look into. One of them was the abutter had a claim that lots 38 and 39 were not owned by Mr. Daly or the LLC. That's the applicant. The abutter had a copy of a deed that unfortunately was not complete. And so when we found the deed online at the registry, the deed clearly shows that 38 and 39 did not break. That was never broken from the chain of title. So it's my opinion that Mr. Daly currently owns lots 38 and 39, which it's so confusing. 38 and 39 changed to 38X and 39X, which then changed to 32B or D. I can't remember right now. But so anyway, I went through all of that. I traced it all back, and Rebecca had already had the correct deed, so that's all settled. With regard to the use of Nelson Street, we did receive 2 letters from the applicant's attorney, basically going over Massachusetts law, which says that if you are in a abutter to a road, you have the right to use it, whether, even though your deed is silent. What I actually found in my title search with the registry is that there are 5 lots that Mr. Daly owns where at some point the deed states that he has the right to use the private ways in common with others. So the legal opinion of the applicants, in my opinion, is secondary, because he actually has the explicit right to use Nelson Street. So, and I also checked, so he has, so lots 47, 48, and 64, they front on Nelson Street. Those 3 lots were combined into the assessor's lot, map 47, lot 25A. And he then also has 2 lots that front on Sewell Street that explicitly state that he has the rights to use the private ways. And those are lots, the first 2 coming in off Sewell Street, 55 and 56. And those are part of map 47, lot 22. So I'm not sure if you remember the last time that we were face to face. I had the layout plan map, plan book 11, map 30, and that actually had all of these lots. They were mostly all 60 by 120 lots. If you look at the assessor's map today, if you look at plat 47, they're completely different. They're completely different parcels. So I did go through and find out and made sure that those 5 lots that explicitly allow travel on both Sewell and Nelson, that they're still around. Mr. Daly does own them, or the LLC actually owns them. Mr. Daly owned them for about less than a month and then transferred them to his LLC. So with regard to the use of Nelson and Sewell, the overburdening of the easement, which is very, very likely in my opinion, does not come into site control. So the applicant has site control, and that's essentially where this board will leave it. I think that any other user of either Nelson or Sewell most likely has a private claim of action if there's overburdening of that easement. So that's my that's the legal update. I did have, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, I had 2 quick questions. I had 2 quick questions for Peter. One of them is on 22. it said that a guardrail was added to the Sewell Street layout. Did that change the width, the traveled width at all? And what I'm getting at is, will that impact fire department by adding that guardrail?
No, so the guardrail will be located, there's a standard dimension off the edge of the traveled way for the guardrail.
Okay.
So it
Okay.
shouldn't impact that. Yep.
And then I have one more question, Peter, or actually maybe Rebecca. I was just wondering, there's a couple comments from the applicant's engineer, 28 and 29 at least, that state that it's their understanding that the water and sewer department are in favor of the project and of the design. Do we have anything in writing from the water or sewer department indicating as such?
They have not made a presentation to the Zoning Board of Appeals, but they have provided documentation and a letter to the Board of Selectmen. And they have also discussed it at multiple meetings and reflected on their agenda and their meeting minutes.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. That was it, Mr. Chairman. I am available for questions if anybody has any.
All right, thank you. All right. Is that all we have to cover in regards to the TEC for the moment?
Mr. Chair, those were the two big items tonight, civil and obviously Nelson Street. We've been doing for a while, and we look for the direction of where the board would like to go now, and whether we discuss those issues tonight or we discuss them at the next available meeting, please let us know.
I mean, I'm inclined to wait. We do need to review the extension and just make sure we get that on the record. But the way things are going, I'm thinking July is going to be a public meeting if we can't get one in before then. But I certainly discuss what other board members want to do in terms of meetings and planning.
No, I think I'd agree. I think it's probably in everyone's favor to have the next session in person if we can at all make it that way.
With a mother and assisted living facility, I hope you are right. So we are all hoping that. What would be helpful to us though is whether now or sometime between now and that July meeting, if the board has other questions in their review of the material that's been provided, if they could channel those to Rebecca so we could be prepared and thus efficient when we meet again, that would be appreciated.
Certainly.
As to the extension letter, I finally got confused about counting days, so I changed it for Rebecca. So now we actually had a date. And subsequent to this discussion, I obviously, Rebecca, if I got my dates correctly, will need to extend it again through the end of July. Is that correct?
That is correct, but the last letter, just to get on record, did mention the number of days and not a date. So if we get an updated one, a date.
Oh, yeah, I will. I'll just simply write a letter that says July 31st, and we'll leave it at that for the moment because I'm lost in date counting. But I think the date suffices from our end if it works for the board. You'll have it in the morning, Melissa.
Mr. Chair, I have a few questions. May I? Okay.
Certainly.
So there's a couple of things I just wanted to go over quickly. One is in the, I'll start here. So in the list of waivers that were requested on the February 27th draft, I noticed on the third one, 8.1, that they're requesting a building height of 75 feet per architectural plans, but then TEC said 65 feet. So I just want to get clarification on that. I thought the plans were 65 feet. So I don't know if that's just a typo or I just want to make sure we're clear.
I would need to pull up the plans to confirm whatever the architect had and spotted as his elevation. We have not changed any elevations that I think affect what has been presented to you in the past. Is that true, Brian, in that there's nothing in your elevations of finished grades and anything that affect the calculations of height as we've originally presented?
Yeah, that's correct, Joel. I think the 75 feet is right to the very peak of the roof on it. As before, the 65 feet might have been related to units, locations of units on it.
The building height was 64.8 inches from the garage grade to the mean of the roof. So just on the highest, in the backside, the walkout side to the mean of the roof is 64.8. I don't know what it is off the top of my head in the front, but it's 64.8, so it is 65. And Brian's correct, 75 to the tippity top.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you.
Yep.
And by the way,
for
Rebecca, sorry, I didn't mean to say Melissa. I meant Rebecca.
It's a couple other questions. So the first one, Amy sort of alluded to it, but I was just kind of curious about, and Rebecca said that you guys have been meeting with the water department. I'm just sort of curious, is there an update on that? Like, do you guys have a sort of a set plan on what you're gonna do? Because I don't think we've talked about it since like November, maybe December. I don't know, whatever month that was, but I just wanted to see if there was an update.
Well, relative to the water, we ran a pressure test, and beyond that, we've gone no further yet in designing the actual system, but we've confirmed with the water department that there's adequate pressure to service the project. So that is where we laid there. Relative to the sewer department is still working issues through their end on the extension, and so that's just ongoing, and we will either work our way through successfully an extension, or we will put an on-site wastewater treatment facility permitted through the state. So one of those two things are happen. We are hopeful and still optimistic that in fact the sewer extension will take place, as we believe that that's really good for the town. And that's in part predicated ultimately on our discussion about number of units, because it's very expensive, as you might imagine.
And also just to comment that you'll be seeing that actually on the upcoming Board of Selectmen agenda. The Water and Sewer Commission I believe on June 8th, will be before the Board of Selectmen asking for an easement through the property over at 350 Center Street, which connects an easement that's already in place in the beginning and in the end. So they're really just missing that middle piece. And there's an actual trail project happening right now. So they're trying to take advantage of some engineering and trying to get that taken care of as part of the conservation. So it is something that they're all considering, and it will be on the June 8th agenda for them to make that request to the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you, Rebecca.
And we have and continue to support them in anything they need as they work through the process.
Okay, and one last thing, more for the board, but we did receive a letter from the Conservation Commission, and with their comments on the application. So we haven't really talked about it in the meetings at all. We got it, I think it was dated March 18th. So I don't think we actually really even touched on it, but maybe we could put that on the agenda for the next meeting whenever, if we decide if that's June or July. Did we say it was July?
Somebody's muted who's talking, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, we certainly want to meet in July. I don't know if we want to add another June meeting. If this is something, if we want to talk about the conservation thing, and the only question mark would be, whether it's an in-person or something later, longer we can wait for in-person, the better, I think. But
Well, I would prefer to do it in person, but I just wanted to make sure that the applicant knew that that was sort of our intention, is to discuss it at the next meeting.
We appreciate that, and Rebecca will obviously share the letter with us, so we will be prepared.
Okay.
It has been shared, but I will share it again.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Will we be looking at a July 1st meeting? Will that be the meeting? Or do you want to wait?
That would be the standard, unless there's some conflicts or something. We could move it forward a little bit or back.
Yeah, I don't think.
Does anybody?
Meet in 2 weeks. The July meeting's fine. It's just a question of, is it the 1st or the 15th?
I think it would be the first, right? That's the first one.
Okay.
Yeah, as long as nobody has an issue with the first.
I have no vacations planned these days.
When will you guys know if we can get back into town hall?
I think that's a good question.
Rebecca, have you heard anything?
I've heard rumblings and rumors, but I haven't had a concrete date, and the rumors and the rumblings are looking at something in late July in terms of opening up to the public again, obviously with a phased approach with employees and other types of appointment by only type of activities. But again, that is not concrete. That is just rumors and hearsays. Nothing has been announced and or determined by the Board of Selectmen at this point in time.
If necessary,
Do you know,
I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, would the split meeting be an option where we meet with the involved parties in person, but then public is remote?
Mr. Chairman, this is Amy Questle, Town Council. Unfortunately, this is a public hearing, and therefore the public has to have the same access to the meeting that the members have. So that wouldn't work.
And I don't know whether the town has considered having such a meeting in the gym of the school where we can all spread out and maintain our proper social distancing as an alternative. In that we have proven, I guess, during the time that we've been deliberating that we don't draw lots of crowds in for it. And that might just be a suggestion.
So, Mr. Chairman, the legislature on April 3rd enacted the Municipal Relief Act, which is Chapter 53 of the Acts of 2020, which allows, Section 17 of that allows land use boards such as yourself to not have to meet during this state of emergency. And the reason being is because of the health crisis. So I think that I don't think there's any problem scheduling a July 1st meeting. I would not commit to holding a meeting in the gym or anywhere at this point. I think that we commit to having a meeting on July 1st, and if it's going to be a virtual meeting, it's going to be a virtual meeting.
Yeah, certainly. I'm just trying to figure out what the options might be.
Just for the board, your options are that this whole matter has been automatically tolled until the termination of the state of emergency, and plus 45 days after. So, you do not have to hold a meeting on July 1st if you do not want to. So Section 17 of the Act, it provides that any hearing that had started prior to March 10th is automatically tolled. It also provides that any new filings, any new applications that come in do not have to be scheduled. It provides there's no constructive approval. Section 4 says there's no constructive approval of that, or subsection 4. And the other thing is that to facilitate all of this, there's a section that allows the chair without a quorum to automatically continue hearings. So it's clear the intent of this legislation was to relieve land use boards from having to worry about, deadlines, et cetera, and meeting. So, your options are that you could continue this to sometime in late August. If for some reason we think that maybe the termination of the state of emergency will be at the end of July, you'd have to have a meeting within 45 days, so late August would cover you. Or you could have it's at the sole, in my opinion, in my firm's opinion, and it's at the sole discretion of the board. So you could schedule a meeting for July 1st. There's no problem with doing that, just as we're having a meeting tonight. Or you can continue it to a time late in August. It's up to the zoning board.
I'm certainly willing to schedule a meeting for July 1st, and leave it up to Bill and his council on whether or not they want, what they want to cover in a potential remote meeting, or if they just want to hold off until, but I'll leave it up to them to what they actually want to cover in such a meeting. But we'll at least go to schedule on the board now for a July 1st meeting, and then we can can adjust if we need to.
I would just ask, so Kathy, if the Conservation Commission or whoever representative was attending and we could share screens of plans and questions, would that make it a possibility that we could still do this online as we did tonight?
Yeah, I just, I honestly, because this is such a big project, and because, although I'm glad Amy provided some clarification, but I just didn't want to leave us open to people not being able to put in their input, because it is a public project. The public should be involved, and I just want to make sure that we have every opportunity to reach out to them. That's all. And so I think our initial conversations where we were all sort of in agreement, well, let's just try to wait it out, but obviously it's going on a lot longer than we anticipated in the beginning. So I'm not opposed to it. I just, I just was hoping that maybe they'd be open by July 1st and we could defer it a little bit, and that way people get an opportunity to speak. But I understand, it's an emergency, and until they lift it, we can do business as much as we're comfortable with. But I mean, if we could screen share, if we could look at information, and if the representative from Conservation Commission could attend, I don't have a problem with it. I just want to make sure that we're covered, as far as it sounds like from Amy that we are. So, I was a little leery of that. Plus, remote meetings sometimes for me, like I got disconnected through the whole TEC, a lot of the TEC report. I had to come back on thanks to Comcast. So sometimes it can be quirky. So that's why I worry about it. But
I did see you move around my screen at one point, so I was aware you must have dropped off. So
yeah, thanks to Comcast in Groveland, which, which is a whole topic for another meeting. But
well, Mr. Chair, once the letter is circulated, we also can let Rebecca know in terms of what we think the depth of comments might be. And we can, hobnob and try to see whether we could be productive, because I do appreciate Kathy's concern. We want to make sure we're productive, and we do want to make sure that, we're open to the public.
Yeah, I don't mind.
Yeah. What were we saying, Bill?
Yeah, I don't mind July 1st. I think it's a good idea for Concom. Maybe we can get the stuff out there and wrap up a bunch of the items on his list. But I hopefully at the end of July or in August we do get face to face, and no problem having Concom come back. I think July 1st remote, if we can address a third or half or however much of his stuff, it's better than nothing, and doing it all later. So, and the other thing I noticed, like, I don't know, it's our 8th or 9th meeting, there's nobody's really been at town hall except one or two of my abutters here and there, and nobody's been on these Zoom meetings. So that was my only fear, that people couldn't get on Zoom, or they weren't aware, they didn't know how. But that's really becoming really the go-to thing now. So I mean, after a couple months of the Zoom now, it's really not an excuse that you didn't know. So but I definitely do want to get face to face, and if it's August, that's fine. I mean, we get time. But I would like to pick away at any other departments' concerns prior to that, just so we're not all tied up for hours. But I thought this was very productive. tonight, getting through the engineering and the legal aspects. We're running out of things to talk about.
And I get to see all of your homes.
I'm gonna sit green screen.
That brings me to one other question I have that I don't know if you have an answer to, Amy, but if we are limited in terms of the size of not that it's necessarily going to be an issue for us because we've never had more than 25-ish people anyway, but are there ways we can handle, if they say we're limited to 20 and 22 people show up? Can we set up kind of a remote space, or what would be the options there? If you have any thoughts on that yet.
So it would kind of be a situation, maybe like town meeting, where you'd have to have a remote room. However, anyone would have to have full access. A better idea would be that everybody goes home and we do the meeting on Zoom, and those of us that live far away stay in town hall and use our phone on Zoom or something like that. That would have to be.
Yep.
That would be the situation. Again, because this is a public hearing, the public has to have the same access you do. If you're just going to have a public meeting where you're going to do meeting minutes, you don't even have to let the public, you don't even have to give them the Zoom password. They just have to be able to see you. That's it. But here it's a little bit of a different situation.
Yeah.
And we are anticipating that will happen. That will happen.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be a limit.
Yep.
Sure, there'll be a limit to the number of people. I don't know if it'll be an issue for us because we've never had that many to begin with. But
right.
I'm just sorry I didn't buy stock in Zoom.
Might be a little late.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Anything else we have to cover
I don't have anything
for Sewell Street tonight?
Jason, I just wanted to just mention on public record that we did do the site walk on Wednesday, May 20th. The four of us, we did just do a site walk with Mr. Daly and just saw where the buildings are sort of going to be laid out and that kind of thing. But it was a quick walk. But I just wanted to put it on record that we did do that. We met there on site.
And did practice good social distancing, I hope.
Yes, we did. We all had masks. We did our thing. We stayed away from each other. We did what we were supposed to do.
All right. Then I will make a motion to continue application 2019-3 for Sewell Street until the July 1st meeting.
Seconded.
All those in favor? Kathy Franzen?
Yes. Aye. Whatever.
Chris Goodwin?
Aye.
John Stokes?
Aye.
And aye. All right.
Well, we wish you all and your families continued good health. Thank you all very much.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Welcome.
Thanks, Paul.
I think the only other thing we have tonight is the minutes.
Did you guys get a chance to read them?
Yep. Everything looked in order to me.
I thought they looked great. I had no comment. I know you're all shocked, but it's all good.
The reading minutes to this one might not be so kind based upon the reading of the 58 comments.
Right. Yeah, good luck with that one, Rebecca.
Well, but the
Doing the
good
looks
part
report.
though is that it's already in the report. You can probably just copy and paste a lot of it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to reference. There will be some formatting issues. I'm just throwing it out there.
I wanted it on the record.
Mhm.
And so it will be.
That's why.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a
Or we
question.
could just attach the report,
Say Peter read
Rebecca. Well, right, but Rebecca, if you just want to attach the report, I'm fine with it. I just wanted it like, so that if there was anybody logging on, that they were getting the information that they were looking for.
Of course, no. I copy and pasted. I'll do some formatting. I'll make it work. It'll happen. I'm just giving you a hard time. Yeah.
And you could just, but what I'm saying is you could say, see attached. Works for me.
Peter read Exhibit A.
Exactly, see? I missed most of it, so it'll be good for me. Okay,
I have a question.
okay.
Do we all have to be on Zoom, or I'm trying to think, or can I be on like a phone or a sat phone at a meeting if I can't make it in on time?
I believe you can
That-
be on the phone. You don't necessarily have to be visually present, I believe, but I could confirm that with Amy. I believe that the governor's order relaxed that enough so that you could be on the phone, announce yourself, state your name, and not actually be visually present on the actual video recording like myself or
Exactly.
So can that, the reason I'm asking is I don't know when a good day or a bad day is going to be for weather, but we're coming into, prime time, the end of June and early July. I could be 80 miles offshore, but I have a sat phone that I can call. I don't know who I'd call. I don't know what number I would call.
Oh, the numbers is part of the.
Yeah, the number's part of the invite. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually one thing we should put that on particularly if we do get into more detail, we should put on the public notice that you can actually just use a phone to call that number, and we should put the number.
Yes.
If possible.
And
because you don't need a computer, and that the way the current notice is written, it sounds like you need a computer to do any of this, or a smartphone, which actually you just need a phone.
Yes, I
with
agree.
The right number.
I agree with the agenda. I've been using the same template for the agenda, but I definitely agree because when I post it online, I actually copy the Zoom invite onto the online when I post it on the website. So kind of like what you guys get, but I've noticed that I'm actually not putting that on the agenda. So I'm actually going to change up the template moving forward because I agree with you, Mr. Chair. That would be the better way to do it.
That's all I wanted to know, because I don't want to hang up a meeting or screw things up, but I don't want to not go do what I need to do. It's a very short season. It's very compressed. And
Well, John, there is an app for the smartphones too for Zoom. Because in fact, when I was struggling trying to get back on, I was trying to get on my phone, and you could do it with the camera on your phone. So if you feel like you want to, if you want us to all watch you
I'm guessing
fish,
the issue is
then you can get on
internet access, period.
Yeah, the Zoom doesn't go out that far. It goes off 4 miles, 5 miles.
Oh, that's it.
Satellite phone will, it's bouncing off a satellite, so it works.
Okay.
No matter where I am.
That's going to be something to consider too. That keep me on that as we come into a vacation season here, depending on what the vacation situation is going to look like and what we actually can do. And I know I'm going to be away sometime mid-July, so.
So now we can interrupt your vacations with meetings.
Yeah, I could probably log in.
What is that? Vacation? What's that? I've never heard of it.
It's someplace hopefully out of my house. Anywhere out of my house.
You go on
All
vacation.
right, before we forget,
You want to make a motion to approve the minutes?
yes, that's what I was gonna do. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of, May 6th meeting, May 6th, 2020 meeting minutes.
Seconded.
All those in favor? John Stokes,
Aye.
Kathy Francis,
I think she said
Rebecca,
aye.
did you get that? It cut out on mine.
Gotta ask Chris.
No, your mic didn't pick up.
No,
Your-
we didn't hear you.
Oh, aye.
Yeah.
All right, Chris Goodwin,
Aye.
and I, Chase Normand. All right, anything else we want to discuss?
The only thing I wanted to mention was that unfortunately, as you noted in my email, we do have a new board member. The board member was appointed by the Board of Selectmen, Matt Guy. He actually works over at the fire department. He was going to join us. I'm not sure what happened. I've been trying to follow up with him. He is new to the process, but is familiar with development in general. So unfortunately, he's not here, so we can't pick on him this evening. But hopefully we will be able to get him on board so that we can help him become more familiar with the process and procedure.
Excellent.
I'm
Great.
very excited we have a new board member. I was hoping he'd be on too, but very exciting.
It'd be my first full board since my first meeting when she announced she was leaving.
It's been a while since we've had a full board.
Yeah.
And even before that, it was very brief as well. So it'll be nice to have a full board. Okay.
All right.
I'll make a motion to adjourn at
Seconded.
8:50 p.m.
John Stokes,
Aye.
Kathy Francis,
Aye.
Chris Goodwin,
Aye.
and I. All right, have a good night.
Good night,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good night. Talk soon.
Good night. Bye.
Bye-bye.